high growth firms are different than other firms because they're really focused on sustaining profitable growth. And they do that in incremental continuous expansion. That's the key to their racking up such a large part of the job creation in an economy. We have about 1% of firms that are responsible for about 3/4 of all the job creation in an economy over a 5 or 10-year period of time, depending on when you want to measure it. And that's through continuous profitable expansion. Now, what we've done is we've been out in the field interviewing and surveying 600 high-growth CEOs to try to find out how does growth itself create operational challenges, and to what degree do companies are they able to address these issues and move forward so that they can sustain profitable growth for the long term. And we found a number of issues that we've shared today with the CEOs, a group of about 25 CEOs, to get their feedback on them. And we're very happy to find that, in fact, this lines up really well with their experiences as well.
What are a couple of those key issues? I mean, I know you probably can't delineate them all, but what are some of the top challenges that high-growth firms might be facing in order to continue to grow?
One of the key challenges that high-growth firms face is labor availability, but it's not a one-dimensional issue like we normally hear. Companies that are growing rapidly usually begin growing with a fairly flat organizational structure, and as they're growing, they're adding in a tremendous number of entry-level workers. When they do that, they tend to focus on very technical job skills that they're trying to hire for, like have you worked a lathe before, for instance. While that's important, what they really need is they need supervisors to be developed in their organization. So it's also important to ask them, have you ever had any sort of supervisorial responsibility? If they have, even as a crew chief at a McDonald's, they have in the past, then they know how to work with teams of people, communicate orders, manage time and schedules, do quality control, and those kinds of skills on the early entries, the hires for these growth companies is very critical to develop so that you have the supervisors to manage all of these incoming employees.
Absolutely. I guess some have said that this might be like a paradigm shift in how economic development is executed, this focusing on impact or high growth companies. Do you see this as something that's game-changing in terms of the economic development landscape here in the region, in the state, elsewhere throughout the country?
I think this does change the way that economic development will work in the future. Economic development in the past has not really had a very good focus on the cause and effect. If we do something, what is the effect, the outcome? So unlike other state organizations or government organizations like transportation or healthcare or education, they know that if they put $1 in, they have an idea what the outcome's going to be. Economic development has not been driven by data. It hasn't been driven by what happens on the ground. It's instead, in the past, been flirting around with theories that don't really describe the way the world works very well, like industry cluster theory or creative class theory. Those theories explain a part of what goes on in the world, but when we look at the data, when we track the growth of 1.3 million companies, we find that the growth dynamics are far different than what existing theory tends to tell us. And so with the data, we can track and match the activity of firms based on the assistance they get and different other characteristics of the firm to better be able to design economic development policies and programs that will affect the outcomes that we're seeking.